Black out the sky. Can't you see the flames light up the sky? Yeah. Your screams holding fade. We're going inside. Smoke is building. Open air. No one gives a fuck. They'll never care. I sold my life to the man with the dotted line. And at the end of my days, my soul's no longer mine. I traded it all for the gold. My heart is sailing low. It's the end of my days and it's way too late. Why can't you say? We're thought to die. Get down on your knees. Let's try to pray. You can't pray the pain. Let fear away. It won't stop the blood. Blood in the streets. Your God, your demise. You see your life. I sold my life to the man with the dotted line. And at the end of my days, my soul's no longer mine. I traded it all for the gold. My heart is sailing low. It's the end of my days and it's way too late. What have we been called? There's nowhere to get on your knees. Don't count. What's up? People running scared to try and hide. Trees and mountains fall. Go for your lives. Motions rising, wash away the shore. Cities burning out forevermore. sold my life to the man with the dotted line. And at the end of our days, my soul's no longer one. I traded it all for the gold. But it's still it's the end of my days and it's way too late. You can't break free. What's up? What's up? What's up, everyone? Hey. I'm Fran the Savage. I'm Fran with Savage from the Savage Ladies of Metal. With me are my ladies, of course, Amy and Marla. You want to say hi, ladies?
Hey.
Hi.
Today we have an awesome guest. This is episode 3. So thank you for tuning in and checking us out. We have Dying Oath with us, which is really, really fucking cool. Been looking. Oh, sorry. Been looking forward to bringing these ladies in. We got Mindy and Kristen from Dying Oath. Ladies, how you doing?
We're good. How are you guys?
Good. Loving the weather out here. I don't know how it is, but you guys in Chicago, it's cold, it's raining, and we hate winter.
Cold here too. Yeah.
So, ladies, thank you again for coming on show with us and letting us, check you out, seeing what the band's about, and finally meeting you in person, so to speak. Kristen, welcome to the Dying Oath family.
Thank you. Very much appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how'd that go about? I mean, how did trying out for that go about? What'd you have to do?
Well, pretty much Mindy was kept coming to me and was like, hey, you should try out. I have another band as well. Villanova Heroes. It's I don't know, like kind of like a metalish kind of band, pop punk mixed thing. But play guitar and do vocals in that band. But she was trying to get me to come play bass. And I was like, I'm not really sure. But she eventually talked me into it. And I was like, all right, hell yeah, let's do it. Sorry, bad word. But yeah, I went in. I learned the 3 singles. I went in, I wrote my own bass lines and evidently killed it. So
she was amazing.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. I'm glad I talked her into it.
Well, obviously you knew who you were chasing down, so that's why you were relentless. That's obviously a good thing.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, she was a fan of the band anyway in the beginning, and we've become really close friends, and so we've tried to support each other's bands and whatnot. And then she had auditioned actually back for the vocalist spot, and I just wanted her in the band. She wanted to be in the band, and she did everything she needed to earn it. So now she's here with us.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
Hell yeah. So I see, some of the guys are missing. I understand life happens. That's cool. I still appreciate you ladies putting time aside to be on here with us. So it's really, really cool. But yeah, definitely. It's stoked about this. We're gonna take me and the ladies, seeing how there's 3 of us. We're gonna try not to talk over each other. So we already said, just to take turns asking questions. So I'll let one of the other ladies go.
Okay. Go ahead, Amy.
All right, I'll start then. So Mindy, your vocals are incredible.
Thank you.
And I think it's really awesome and unique how you're the one doing the screaming in the band, and then you have the guy doing the clean vocals.
Yeah, props on that.
that is so awesome. So how did you get into singing like that? Have you always just sung that way, or?
No, actually, I'm classically trained. I used to do opera and things like that. And I spent like every day after school when everybody was out doing things, doing vocal lessons and stuff like that. So I did cleans for years. I've been in bands since I was 14. I've been doing vocals since I was about 5, believe it or not. It's just something that I always wanted to do. And then I got into doing metal. My first band was a pop punk band, and I did that for 9 years probably. And then I auditioned for a band called 18 Days, which I was in for about 6 years. And they wanted to to do heavier stuff. And one of the covers that they wanted to do was Bodies by Drowning Pool. And I was like, okay, well, I'll attempt this. So I started looking up videos on YouTube to try and get me started and talking to other vocalists about their techniques and what they did and so on. And then I just started doing it, and it was awful at first. It was really terrible. It took a lot of practice, but I've been doing it now for about 6 years. So I guess I've kind of honed in my craft a little more these days, thankfully.
Man, that's got to be a hell of a transition from going from being class trained in opera to just, you know, belting it out and fucking just screaming like that. I mean, that's gotta be a hell of a transition for your throat. How did you process that? How did you train for that?
I don't think that you really ever can train for that, especially. You know, it takes practice. It's different types of practice. With, you know, the clean vocals, it's more of throat singing and whatnot. You've got like your head voice, your chest voice. There are different areas of your body that it comes from. But when you're screaming, it literally all comes from your diaphragm, and you don't use your throat at all. So people think that it's something that's going to mess up your vocal cords, but you actually don't use them at all. It just passes through them. So it's actually like guttural noises that I'm doing instead of actual singing, which I do still do cleans in the band, but it's mostly just harmony parts and whatnot. And I've got other projects where I do cleans, but it's just it's definitely a different devil for sure. But I enjoy it the most. I guess that's why I wanted to do it full time, to kind of show that side of me instead of just the clean vocals.
That's killer. That's awesome. Marla, go ahead, hon.
Yeah, actually, Amy stole my question.
Same. I'm just saying. I was bringing that up
Yeah,
too.
that was one of my questions, because I've always been told that, and I've actually heard people talk about that kind of growling in the voice that you have is a technique that comes from the deep part of your core.
Right.
And so that's pretty much what you had explained here. One of my questions was, I remember seeing a picture, I believe it was you when you were in your teens, and then the next picture, and then the present picture. So prior to that, when you were younger, was you trying to sing when you were younger? And do you have other musicians in your family that brought you to where you started doing this, or you're just naturally gifted with this?
Actually, that's a really good question. No, there are actually a lot of people that are musically inclined in my family. My mom actually was a vocalist and wanted to be a singer. My cousin was in a semi-famous country band. Two of my aunts were gospel singers. My grandmother actually was in a semi-famous bluegrass band when I was growing up. So everybody in my band either like plays guitar or sings or does something. And my mom, actually, it was her dream to be a vocalist in a band, and she gave that up to raise me. So I decided at an early age that since she couldn't do it, that I was going to do it, and she could live vicariously through me, I suppose. So I kind of made it a mission to let her still live out her dream, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome to have such a diverse of music in your family, and then now you have you, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
So how did you get into this type of music then?
Well, my mom actually was into rock and metal. When I was still in the womb, they used to put headphones on my mom's stomach, and I would listen to Metallica and AC/DC and bands like that. So after I was born, you know, my mom and dad both listened to rock and metal. And even though the rest of my family, you know, I grew up on a farm, and they all listen to bluegrass and country and stuff like that, which I admire. You know, I think any type of music is respectable. It's not really me, but I grew up, you know, listening to rock and worshiping Metallica. And so it grew, and I listened to a lot of different genres. Blues is actually my favorite genre of music, believe it or not. But
Nice.
But I definitely like to perform metal more than anything else. I think it's a perfect outlet for, you know, somebody like me that had nothing better to do growing up. I take out all of my rage and anger that way so that I'm a nice person on the outside.
That is awesome. So like a lullaby wasn't normal in your family.
Absolutely not.
A lullaby was horns and just banging out the mouth. I did the same thing to my kids when they were babies. I was playing Slayer when they were newborns. And they loved it. So whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved it since being a kid. I remember, being 4 or 5 years old and rocking out Metallica, and my mom used to make jokes that I came out of the womb like this. So
That's awesome. So as a kid then, based on this, we're talking about being younger, did you know you wanted to do music from when you were a young age, or did you want to do something else before when you grew up?
No, I've always wanted to be a vocalist in a band. When I was 5 years old, I was in the living room and I walked past the TV, and my mom was watching Joan Jett on TV, and I stopped and started to watch it, and I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. And I absolutely raised hell until she bought me a leather jacket. And I would wear that thing everywhere. She would joke that she would have to pry it off my body to go to bed or to put me in the bath or anything like that, because I was just obsessed. And from that moment on, I was like, this is what I want to do, and I'm not going to stop until I get it. And I grew up in a town where women don't do any type of music, more or less metal or anything like that. But, I've got this picture of Joan Jett on my wall, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do one day. And I just keep working toward that until I get there.
That is awesome. So, Joan Jett's a badass. That's cool.
So Kristen, what about you? How did you get into music too? Is it in your family as well, or?
My grandpa on my mom's side, he actually played music. I can't remember his band name. It's more of like the kind of not exactly as like rock as Johnny Cash was back in the day, but that kind of style music, but a little bit more of the country or gospel stuff. He played for a while. It was just too much as raising a family and stuff. So pretty much, other than that, I don't know if you know who Porter Wagner is. That's like,
yeah, I do. I'm old.
I'm related to him. He's like, that's like my grandpa's I can't remember what he told me, a cousin or something. But so like, I kind of have that on my mom's side of the family, but none of his kids played. Don't have like anybody that plays. But I was actually born on my grandpa's birthday, and I'm the only one that plays. And I used to sing a lot as a kid, and I was never like super interested in it other than like singing. And on my road where I used to live, I had a couple older guys that had a band and stuff, and they played, and like I thought they were the coolest things ever. And ever since that, I just kind of around middle school got like an acoustic guitar and just started messing around and kind of just taught myself everything I knew. So I've just been going with it ever since.
Very nice.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Being self-taught, you got to have patience and a lot of, just a lot of, dedication and patience to be self-taught for something like that. I've always admired musicians on that, because for me, it's just like squirrel.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very much that. Trust me, my attention span is very much that. But, I didn't have a lot or anything as a kid and stuff. So I would just take my guitar outside and just, like, I didn't know chords, I didn't know nothing. And I would just put my fingers places. And if it sounded okay, then that's what we went with. So that's pretty much how I learned.
Now she's phenomenal. So
whatever you did it right.
How long have you two known each other? You guys always known each other, or?
No. We're like the same person.
Yeah,
like
it's weird. So my other band, the bass player in my band, actually, he told me about Dying Go.
And he interviewed us for his podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love metalcore, like one of my absolute favorite genres ever. So I was like, okay. And then he was like, he played it for me. He's like, yeah, that's a chick. I was like, what? And I was like, no way. And I don't know how. I'm pretty sure you sent me a Facebook friend request.
I did, because actually what happened is their band was playing, and I'd become friends with Brian, the bassist from their band. From the interview that we did, we ended up being really close friends, and he told me that they were playing close by. So most of my band ended up going to watch them play as support. And then we had kind of met each other that night, but not really. So I sent her a friend request, And then we had started talking about music and whatnot. And then our band started, you know, hanging out more and going to shows.
You remember the first thing you said? You sent me a friend request. I accepted it. And then she sends me a message. It says, "Hey, we should be best friends." And I was like, okay, yeah, all right, let's do it.
Let's just skip the whole introduction. This is happening.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just do this.
well, like some of the things that she had posted, I was like, this is me made over. And it's so strange because the first time we ever hung out, she came to my house and we literally would like sit the same way and do the same things with our hands when we're talking. And like sometimes we're just a mirror image and we say the same things and we act alike. It's
crazy.
really strange,
Yeah.
but everybody just basically said that we were twins and whatnot. And
Meant to be.
we've been friends ever since.
Yeah. Fate
That's
was,
awesome.
Fate was
I
setting that
predicted it.
path for you.
Did it? Yeah.
That's cool. You know what? Fate was setting that path for you. They're saying this is going to happen. It's time you ladies meet. And she and Mindy stepped in. We're just best friends. It's happening.
Yeah, no, that's it. I spoke it into existence.
There you go.
There you go. See? That's how it should be. You know what? The closer the band members, the better the sound, the better everyone works together. That's the way everything works. Doesn't matter if it's music, Savage Ladies and metal. You know, it just doesn't matter. As long as everyone makes it happen together, there's going to be a lot of fights in between and a lot of chasing. Make it happen. That's all that matters. Or maybe that's just us. I don't know.
Hey, Fran, I just want to say if I drop out of here, I mean, I'm problems with my phone because once it gets down below 50%, if a video plays, like the one in the beginning, it goes like this. And my battery just came on, it's getting low. So if I just die, I'm going to stick through you as long as I can.
All right. Well, if you die, I'll leave you an awesome memorial. No, I'm joking.
Oh.
We
Yeah,
love
don't
you
die.
either way. Thank you.
Yeah, don't die.
I
Don't
want black roses.
die. Done. I will make that happen. So, ladies, I would love to talk about your video, "End of Days."
Oh.
Badass song. I can't go without swearing. I apologize. How did that come about? What is the meaning of it?
It's pretty self-explanatory. We called it End of Days because when we first started out as a band, we had already had the music for the song. And I had a dream about the apocalypse. And so when I woke up from this dream, I started penning down lyrics or whatever. And when we started messing with the song, I was like, this kind of sounds like something that would work with these lyrics. So I just played it over and over and over in my headset until things started matching up in my head. And so then I kind of moved everything around and wrote the lyrics accordingly. And I took it to the next band practice and they were like, wow, this is dope. Okay, we should work with this. And we went through a couple of changes with it, but the lyrics mostly stayed the same. The music stayed the same. And once we worked out the kinks, it worked so smoothly and everybody enjoyed it so much that we just hoped that, you know, outside people would enjoy it as much. And then when we did the video, we did it at the haunted house that is very near and dear to us because it's the only venue within an hour for us to play. So we're like, we're going to put all this together and just kind of make all the images that I had in my head in my dream kind of come to life. And then it just kind of evolved from there.
That's cool. And that is the third single release from your album, right?
Yes.
Is your album's not out yet?
It is not. We're actually taking time off right now for studio. We have to get her, you know, up to par with everything with the music. And then we're going to finish our full length, which I think we said, we're going to have like 11 or 12 songs.
Yeah.
So, I think we're actually probably going to re-release some of the first three. I think End of Days we're going to leave alone, and we're probably going to re-record Modern Testament and Insomniac now that we have the new vocalist and the new bass player.
Right.
And it should be out the beginning of next year, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely let us know. We'll be happy to promote and push that out for you. Definitely would be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Are all you guys actually from Virginia originally?
Yeah, I think pretty much. Which
yeah.
she doesn't live in Virginia at all.
No, I'm in pretty much Mount Airy, North Carolina. Andy Griffin. That's Mayberry. That's where I'm from. Yeah.
Nice.
I had to say it. I'll be like, I'm from Mount Airy, North Carolina. They're like, what? I'm like, Mayberry, Andy Griffin. They're like, got it. Yeah. We're not known for anything else other than that. the Granite Quarry. That's it.
Yeah, so we've got her from North Carolina. Jacob, our other vocalist, is in West Virginia. And then me, Endicott, Gage, and Josh are all from around Wythe County. So.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome. So how did all of you meet?
Well, we've gone through some member changes, but I'll start from the beginning. Basically, our old drummer, Jacob, was one of my friends growing up, and they needed another vocalist. So him, Endicott, and Josh were all jamming together. Josh and Endicott were best friends, and they just had jammed for years just by themselves. They got Jacob, our old drummer, to come in. He had called me to come in for an audition, basically. So I went and hung out with them for a little bit. They had already had Jeb, our old vocalist. We ended up working out really well together, so they kept me. I brought in Ryan, our old bassist, because he was my roommate and best friend at the time. And we were kind of set for a while. And then, of course, we got rid of our drummer and brought in Gage. And he was an old friend of mine that I had hung out with for years. And then we brought Kristen in, because she's been one of our close friends. So it's just kind of evolved, but we were all friends inadvertently in one way or the other. So It kind of worked out. We pride ourselves on being best friends first, because we were all best friends first.
Right.
You know, I think that's important too in a band. It's always easier when you get along with everybody, when you're close with them, you know, because I mean, I'm a musician myself, so I know sometimes it's hard dealing with other musicians, and sometimes there's egos, and you know, it's always great when you can be close friends as well.
I agree. That's why it was important to me to bring Kristen in, because we had a lot of other, you know, people that wanted to come in and whatnot. But, you know, as I said, we definitely want it to be family. We pride ourselves on being friends and family first. And so it's important to us to bring in people that we get along with above all. You know, they don't have to be the greatest musicians on the planet.
Absolutely.
Right.
But if they can get along with us and vibe with us, and we can write together and nobody feels that they're better than anybody else, and we can all get along, that's more important to me than anything. So it was definitely a relief to bring her in, because we all already knew her. We knew that we got along with her. We knew how great of a musician she was. And so it was an easy transition for us. So
yeah, I think that translates really well into the writing and the performance and everything, you know. Definitely. I think people can see that, and it's just, I think it's easier to connect with a band where you can see that as well.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. It makes things so much easier in the long run.
Right.
That's cool. Okay, I guess I'll go. I got a list, so bear with me. I'm just going down my list and crossing them off as they ask the same questions. Let's see. Let's talk about some of your tours. You guys have Kristen. I know you're new, so you might not be able to answer some of these questions. So I apologize. No disrespect at all.
No, you're good.
Okay, but yeah, Mindy, you played some killer shows this year. You know, you've done you've done the Metal in the Mountains. You've done Blue Ridge. What was that all like? How do you prepare for something like that?
Well, it's crazy because, you know, we've only been a band completely for 2 years now. We just hit our 2-year mark. So to be able to play shows like that is incredible, because I've been in bands for 5 or 6 years and we didn't get opportunities like that. And honestly, like, our career just kind of skyrocketed on its own. We had no idea. It was kind of an overnight thing, and we just kind of had to go with it. You know, ready or not, it's, you know, you just kind of have to adapt to the situation that you're put in or get left behind. So when some of these opportunities presented themselves, we were like, okay, we'll submit, but if we don't get it, we're going to understand why, because we're a new band. And somehow, some way, like, our fans pulled through, and, you know, we ended up getting on a lot of these shows, which was incredible to us. Is still incredible to me even after they're done. I still can't believe that we did those shows, but I don't think there's really any preparation for that. It's kind of like having a baby. Like, people say they prepare for that, but there really isn't any preparation. It's like, you know, you can say that you're going to do all these things in prep time, but when you're out on that stage in front of like 20,000 people, you just kind of have to wing it, honestly. So we just try and do the same show, whether we're in front of 5 people or thousands of people. And it seems to translate really well because, you know, there's no gimmicks, there's no anything like that. It's just us and raw music. And so that's really all we do to prepare is just practice as much as we possibly can and go out and give it our all, regardless of how many people are out there.
And I think that's another thing that's important too, is you see bands that play and, you know, maybe there's a gig that's just, it's a bad night and not many people there. And you can tell sometimes with the energy of the band where, you know, that mentality is the way you have to go about it. I think is, you know, regardless if it's 5 people or 50,000 people, you want to put on the same performance and give it your all regardless, you know, because even if it's 5 people, you're going to make a better impression on them by, you know, giving it everything you got. And, you know,
well, to me, I feel like with some of the small shows that we've played, it's actually kind of cool because, you know, those 5 people might be super important. There might be somebody out in that show that is with a record label or wants to do a podcast interview or just a new fan that didn't know about you before. And that's just as important as anything else, is making one fan. So, you know, we've had shows where we've just played for the bartender and that was fine. I mean, I'm sure they were a really cool bartender, you know? And then there are shows where there's like 20,000 people and you go out and you greet those people just the same and try and thank as many people for being there as possible because you have no idea who's going to be out in that crowd, who, you know, could help you in any way or who you might have helped in one way or the other. And so, you know, you're going to have bad nights. Sometimes we're tired. We've played back-to-back shows that I was just exhausted. But the second that first note kicks in, like, all of that just kind of goes away and that adrenaline takes over and then you've got energy all over again. So I think it's important to just showcase that no matter what, if it's even just a practice. We've had people come to practice and we put on the same show at practice as we do regular shows because you just have no idea how you're going to help people's lives. So,
yeah. So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, some of the guys from BB3 just sent out a message, and that was one of my questions too. What is your inspiration for your music? Like, what bands inspire you to?
Good question.
This direction.
Well, I think it's different for all of us. I'd say every single one of us has a different answer. I know that Josh and Endicott are more into the like 2000s metalcore, which is what inspires the musical side of our music. You know, that's what got them into music, and that's why we're trying to bring that sound back, because that's something that's universal between all of us, is that we all like that metalcore sound. For me, you know, I came through the 80s and the 90s, so it's everything from like 90s grunge rock to Joan Jett and Journey, you know, all of the originals. Pat Benatar was a big thing for me, all the way up until like 90s new metal with Kitty. I think it's different for all of us, but for the music in general, of course, obviously 2000s metalcore is the sound that we're trying to bring back and what inspires us the most. And we just write about real life issues. You know, I write about things that have happened in my life or things around me. And I think that's also what translates, is that, you know, we try and touch on subjects that other bands are afraid to write about. Yeah. You know, abusive relationships, you know, sexual abuse, things like that. And we try to write empowering music for people that are in bad situations that some of us have been in or people we know, so that people want to go out and inspire not only themselves, but others. And that's basically what we're trying to do as well. So,
and that's awesome. And we really need that, especially now with everything going on with COVID. You know, everyone's whole world, everyone's lives are being flipped upside down. They need that powerful, strong influence, especially when it comes to the ladies. We need more women to stand up for each other and not take each other down, you know, so to have women up front, not just in the music scene, but all over, that are willing to stand up and say, this is life. And we're going to talk about the taboo subjects that everyone's afraid to talk about, because it needs to be confronted. And music is the best way to do it, because music is what grabs people. and that's what helps them get through everything.
Standing up and being a voice.
Absolutely. And I think that's awesome. So thank you for being one of those strong women that stand up and say, we are here and we get it, and it's awesome to have women like that.
As I said in the beginning, like I grew up in a town where women didn't do music, and it's also a small town where not a lot is going on. There's not a lot of opportunities for women or for anybody in general. And being a part of the LGBTQ plus community also kind of stifled my career at times, because where we are currently, it's still not as accepted as a lot of places. So like, I had a lot of people try and push me down in my career and in my life. And the fact that I was able to get past that and had other women that have needed to get past that and didn't have a voice, I always said that if I made it anywhere that people could hear me, then I was going to stand up for those same people, because I didn't have anybody to do that for me. And so I feel that it's my duty to do that for other people, because I have a voice that people are going to listen to, and I want to use it for better.
And you made sure that voice was heard and put a mic right in front of that mouth. You're going to hear this. And that's awesome. Marla, you doing okay? Is your phone dying?
Yeah, I can barely see you guys, but I'm going to hang on till it's gone.
We got Dom. Dom was wondering, in front of a crowd, what drives you?
Well, for me, as I said, a lot of these questions are going to be, different for everybody in the band.
Yeah, well, for both of you, like what inspires either one of you? I mean, everyone's got the same or a different drive. Everyone's got a different feeling when they get on that stage and they see that crowd going nuts, staring at them. What is your drive? How do you feed off that?
Well, I'll go first. For me, it's definitely the fans, because especially in times like these, a lot of people don't have money to go out to shows. They don't have a way to get there. They're losing their jobs, things like that. And even since the beginning of my career, it's always been the fans that have driven me. And for this band as well, if you know anything about this band, we care more about our fans than we do anything else, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a voice. We wouldn't have music. We wouldn't have a way to be able to speak to you guys right now or be on this podcast. So thank you guys for that. It takes everybody in the community to make this work. And we want to make sure that everybody knows how appreciated they are, so that when we get on that stage, I'm making eye contact. I'm talking to the people. I'm making sure that after the show, I'm down there with them. So the second I get on there, I want to give them the best experience that they can possibly get for that money, because that $6 or that $10, might have been their lunch for the next day. You just never know what people are going through. And so I try to make as much contact with our fans as possible. So that in itself is what drives me every time.
That's awesome. What about you, Kristen? I mean, I don't know how your other fans.
I don't know if I could say any better than that. I mean, that's the truth, though. Just knowing, like, if you're on stage and people singing along and dancing and everything, knowing that they feel what you wrote and, like, it touched them in some kind of way. Like, honestly, there's no amount of money that can ever top that. I mean, yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, Amy's working. I mean, I'm training myself about the stage. The feeling you get as soon as you walk up that stage, it's like a whole different, intensity, and everyone receives it differently. And I always wondered, just like, what Don was wondering, what's that feel like? Just the difference between walking out to a crowd of, 50 people and then going to a major festival, Metal in the Mountains and stuff like that, that 180 and feeling the intensity, that's got to be the most incredible fuel for your fire to drive you even more,
It is, and it's always different, because when we play these cozy little house shows or these small venues, it's great in a different way, because you get to interact more and be more on their level. And so it's very touching, especially when we play at home and our friends and our family are out there. It's hard for me emotionally to get through it. I'm so emotional out there, because I'm so proud of not only what we're doing, but the fact that people who love us are accepting this as well as they have and receiving it. But on the other hand, it's like when we played at Blue Ridge and you've got 20,000 people out there and they're singing your lyrics.
That's
And they're moshing, and they're doing everything that you're doing, and echoing everything that you're doing back to you. You really feel accomplished, like you've made it. And I think that success is just reaching your goals. It's not being famous or having millions of dollars, because we all know that those things obviously don't make people any happier than where we are now. But it's reaching your goals and knowing that you made it to all of these bucket list things that you had in the beginning of your career. And since this year, I've been able to literally mark all of those things off of my list. And
That's
so
awesome.
to me, I feel like I've succeeded in my career. If I die tomorrow, I'll be perfectly happy with it, because I succeeded in all of my goals. But now I just want to reach higher, not only for myself, but for the people that have stood behind us and got us to this point. Like at this point, we're now doing it for you, because we've already done everything that we wanted to do. So,
right.
That's incredible. You know, how quickly you've grown with the band. You know, you were saying it was kind of like an overnight thing, not expected.
Mm-hmm.
So you have accomplished a lot in a short period of time. What other goals do you have for the band?
well, obviously, we want to get this album out, because we've been sitting on it for 2 years, because things did happen so fast that we haven't even had time to go into the studio, because it's been show after show, interview after interview. And, we really just needed to get out and get our name out to people, so that people know who we are, so that we can take time off and put things on the back burner to get this album out for you guys. So the first thing that we want to do is get this album finished and out to you guys, so you're not listening to the same 3 songs that you've listened to for the last year. And then hopefully, it's not all about being signed or anything like that, but we definitely do want to try and do a tour, so that we're not just playing the coast, because we played in 7 or 8 states this year on the coast, which is huge for only being a band for 2 years. But we want to expand that, because being on so many radio stations and stuff this year, we've reached other countries. We've reached across this country, and we want to be able to go out and thank those fans personally, just like we have the ones back home. So it's a goal for us to try and at least get on tour, even if we don't, make it on MTV or anything like that. We at least want to try and reach out.
I'm back.
She's popping in and out.
I'm next to the wall with the phone charger in, because it keeps dropping. So I'm trying to hang in there.
You gotta love it. We go live with all our bloopers.
as far as your music, do you have kind of a target date for the album? And then in the meantime, are the singles that you have out, are they available to purchase somewhere, to download?
We are on all of the streaming sites, so you can download those literally anywhere. We're on Pandora, Amazon Music, Deezer, Spotify, anywhere that you can get music, we're there. We actually have a link tree on our page where you can get to all of our links at once. But yeah, right now you can stream them or download them anywhere. And as far as a date goes, we've tried to set a date several times, and we've had to switch members out. And then, we had like festivals pop up that we couldn't refuse and things like that. So we want to try and have it out, I'd say middle of the year next year at the very latest. Hopefully that's what we're able to do.
Yeah.
Because, we've had so many switch ups. That's why we don't really like to put out dates, because
Right.
if we don't reach it, we don't want to be a disappointment. But hopefully middle of next year, everything will be out and you'll have a full length album. And we have already started on writing the next amount of music. So hopefully by then we'll have enough material to be able to finish for the next song as well.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Definitely looking forward to that. So, based on that, I know how you were saying that you want to retire, sooner or later, not just yet, obviously. You've only just begun. There's so much more that I can't wait to see the band, go through and experience. You guys are blowing up, and it's amazing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But so down the line, what kind of legacy would you want to leave?
Honestly, like I said, I've kind of reached all of my bucket list things already, and I feel like I've already somewhat, at least in this town, I might be like small town famous, but I feel like I've at least, left my mark on my town and my friends and my family. And there's music that people can go back and listen to after I'm gone. So I feel like I've already kind of left a little bit of a mark and a legacy already. But I definitely want to inspire all of those little girls and little boys that, want to do this, that don't feel like they can. If they live in a town where there isn't music, or if their family doesn't want them to do it, or whatever it is. Like, the reason why we like kids at our shows so much at the all ages shows is because we're inspiring the new generation. And that's a goal, because, people have given up music left and right this year because of all the things going on in the world. And it's been hard for bands to stay together and hard to have gas money to get to practice and things like that. So I basically just want to keep going for as long as I possibly can and inspiring as many people as I can, so that the next generation is there and working hard already, so that when we do pass the torch, there are other people to take it over.
That would be cool. That is the way it should be. I mean, to say you're so young and you say you've already scratched off your bucket list, that's incredible. Because I haven't even touched mine.
Well, you gotta understand, though, I've been doing this my whole life, and I will be 35 in December.
Are you really? So, you look phenomenal. Oh my gosh.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow, you look incredible. Wow.
But that's awesome. A lot of us in the band are in our 30s. And so, I've been in band since I was 14 and doing music since I was 5. So this has been over 20 years for me working at this. So, the 2 years that I've been with Dying Oath have been incredible. And I've been able to get a lot of that done in the last 2 years. But I've been working at this my entire life. So it hasn't been an easy feat. I have been able to scratch everything off my bucket list, but I've worked really hard at doing so in the last 20 years. So
that's awesome. So what would you ladies, what kind of advice would you ladies give to all the young women who want to start, who want to have a career in music and want to be female fronted or play an instrument, whichever the case is, or both? It's the women, unfortunately, even though we are growing and getting bigger, the women are getting bigger and more pronounced in the music scene. It's still more, there's still more work for them to do. What kind of advice would you give to future musicians who want to get up there, and for the ladies to move forward?
For me, I would just say, don't give up. If there's anything I've learned, especially being a woman in a man's world, because we all know that metal especially is a man's world, and we are coming up, and I'm proud of that. And I'm glad to have been able to transition over the years through that. And it's been incredible. But I would just say, don't give up. There are so many people in the world that are going to tell you no, and, try and make you think they know who you are and what you should be about and what you should wear and how you should act. And I honestly think all of that is crap. I think that you can just be whoever you want to be. Exactly. And I'm living proof of that. I grew up in a town where I wasn't accepted on all fronts of my personality or my sexuality or my career. And I've still made it to this point by persevering. So literally,
we are frozen.
What happened? You were frozen?
Are you guys frozen on your end?
No.
Well, it's just me.
Let it go. No, I'm just joking.
I'm
gonna let it go because all I'm seeing is frozen faces.
I almost put my hair in a braid today. I'm glad I didn't.
Well, I'm gonna let you go and get off here because it's my phone, and it was a pleasure to be able to talk to you, ladies.
Marla, love your face. Love your show. Ayo.
Talk to you later, Marla.
Bye.
Take care. Angela says we are all frozen. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a connection issue, depending on where you're at. I'm okay on my end, and you ladies are good, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so that's good. So it's not us connection issues. It happens. It's in the scene. It is harder for women. We do. I'm not a musician, but coming from my end, coming from the back, before the Savages, I was working at the back. So to come up to say, hey, I'm going to be heard in the music scene, everyone's like, you're not a musician, and you got to work harder. And you're gonna have people who are gonna tear you down, saying you're doing it wrong. You're doing it this way. This is the way it's supposed to be. Hi, I'm Fran. And it's you got to do you. And I respect, and I agree with you. There are lines you can't cross, but never give up, because there's always going to be somebody who's going to tear you down, and jealousy, and it can be from our own, it could be from women themselves. So I can imagine what it's like to be a musician, to get on that stage and to challenge the system. And I have mad respect for all the ladies that do that. Complete mad respect.
Thank you.
Thank you for being one of those women who stand up and who are powerful to say, I'm doing me. I love that. All about people. That's how I am. I know Amy's the same way. She's very, very vocal.
Oh,
Now she's
And there more.
Oh, there we go.
One day. Were you frozen?
Fran,
Amy, were you
been
frozen?
freezing up a little bit?
Yeah.
Was I? Yeah.
So I understood what you were saying though. But honestly, like, you are maybe not a musician, but what you're doing is helping musicians, honestly, because we can go out and play music all day long. But if we don't have people doing interviews and podcasts and, video work and stuff like that, nobody's going to know who the hell we are. You can listen to our music all day, but until you actually get to sit down and talk to us and get to know us, you're going to know nothing about our band whatsoever. And I think, honestly, that's more important to the music scene than just the music itself. So, thank you for that. You deserve props just as much as we do.
Absolutely.
It takes a community.
It does.
Well,
It
we
absolutely does.
definitely want to stand up for the music. It's a passion and love for us too. And if we help, the better. I refuse to pick sides between fights. And I express this a lot, because a lot of people always say, they got issues with this or that, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm here for the bands. I'm not going to let one issue ruin a band's chance to be heard on the other side of the country. If you guys are from the East Coast and in the Midwest don't know you, that's what I want to do, is introduce you to the Midwest. I want to end further. If I can take it further, I'm going to do it further. So and that's what the Savages stand for. We're here for you guys, and the more we can do, the better. So the podcast was just natural, to start doing interviews and bringing you guys live. It seems like the next best thing, and I love that you ladies have made time and and to be here. It sucks we couldn't meet with the guys, but one day we probably can. We'd love to bring you definitely back on a future show. And
Absolutely.
Definitely looking forward to the album that's coming out. Can't wait to hear that. You guys got some killer music, and obviously you made your place in the scene because they brought you onto some major fests right away. So congratulations on that. I can't wait to see what else you guys have in store for the public.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much. And life for Dying Oath has been kind of crazy lately, and a lot of things have kind of put us at a standstill a couple of times and tried to hold us back and whatnot. And one of the reasons why the guys can't be here right now is because there's a lot of things going on with their families and whatnot. Two of the guys are dads, and they've got their kids right now and whatnot, and trying to work to pay bills. We're not famous rock stars yet, so we still have to work and do things like that. So we were the only two that could be here today, but we try to represent and
absolutely
do well for our band as much as possible. But the guys actually are fans of the show, and we're bummed they couldn't make it, but hopefully we can do this again later on, and we'll have more updates on what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience? And then, obviously links where they can find you, info about shows, all of that.
As far as links go, you can find us everywhere. There is a link tree that we have that will take you to everything that we have. We have all the socials, TikTok, we have YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you can find music. I'm sure we're probably there. Just type in Dying Oath. We're the only one. So, as far as shows, we haven't booked any for next year because we don't know how the studio time is going to go. So we will post all of that up as soon as we get info on all of that. We do have some big things coming up that we can't talk about yet right now. Some big news that we have to share very soon. So keep an eye on the page for that.
Definitely.
Keep an eye out for Kristen on a stage near you very soon as well.
Very cool.
Tear that up, honey. Tear it up.
That's awesome. And two women, in a metal band together. That's even cooler.
Oh yeah.
That's great. I can't wait to see that.
And if
You
you
guys
guys ever
also
come
have-
to Chicago, you know, if we could bring you up down the line, definitely you guys would be on that list. If you ever tour through Chicago, do not hesitate to hit us up.
Yeah.
You know, not only just come see you, but do live interviews. We'll do one-on-one interviews. We'll do it all. We'll blow it up. Do all the push promotions. I'd be happy to just blow it up in the Midwest for you guys if you ever tour up this way.
Well, the one thing that we pride ourselves on is, like I said, you know, how much we love our fans and how much of a big family that we are. So if you guys are not on the Dying Oath family page yet,
Oh, I am.
join that. You can see what we're doing behind the scenes, get to know us personally instead of just all the business that we put on our regular page. Anybody that we do interviews and stuff with, we try and get you guys on that page so that later on down the line, if you want to do interviews, anything like that, you're now a part of our family. So welcome to the Dying Oath family. We will definitely keep in touch with you in the future because now we're friends. You know us.
Absolutely.
One-on-one.
And you are definitely savage ladies. I mean, that
And-
represents on every level women in the metal scene who are just dominant and take that. You know,
So
they
for
just
anybody
do that
watching the Dying Oath family page that's on Facebook, correct?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you for that. And I guess, you know, the way that we always try to end any podcast or show is just to thank our fans because you guys are family. And there's no way that we could do this without any of you or, you know, the people that are interviewing us. So thank you for taking time out of your day to schedule this for us. We couldn't do it without any of you. So thank you for trying to get to know us, for always checking out our music, checking out our posts, all of our content. You guys are the reason why we do this, and we absolutely love you.
And we love you, and that's why we do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This was great.
Absolutely. This was awesome. Very, very awesome meeting you ladies, and can't wait to talk again with you soon in a few
We're
months.
honored.
Maybe.
Thank you.
So
All right. Well, you ladies have an awesome day. Amy,
You too.
you have an awesome day also.
You all too.